In this video, I'm gonna break down how to make dancehall remixes that sound like this.
I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel. I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel. Don't switch on me, I got big plans. We need to forward to the islands and get you going on straight times. I need you to
I'm gonna break down how I made every element of this beat, give you guys my thought process behind the sound selection, and show you how you can extract a cappella vocals from any song that you want inside FL Studio. Let's jump right into it. So I have this project already made here, but I'm actually gonna start a new arrangement and we're gonna start it from scratch again. First things first, we're gonna go into FL keys. Lately, I've been using the chord generator a lot and it works, so I'm gonna keep using it. So I hit Alt-P to bring up the chord generator. I have my length set as 2 bars, and this is the chord progression that it spit out. I would highly recommend using the chord generator for this because it's gonna spit out the most options the quickest. But you can, of course, always make your own chords. I like these, so I'm gonna hit accept. And then I'm just gonna cut the last bar of these chords. The reason why I'm gonna do this is because my sound selection, I'm gonna make sure that I pick sounds that extend the entire duration. So when I play this piano is not a sound that I would use because it cuts so abruptly. I want something with a little bit more tail to fill that space. I'm gonna open up Analog Lab and I'm using a pad. Well, I'm using 2 pads here. The first one is called Flashback. I'm gonna copy this over to this one. This is already routed to a mixer channel, so I'll just take you through the mixing on here. So we have tremolator set to a 1/4 note, and I just dialed the depth back just a little bit. And I'm also going to select this, copy the notes and bring them down an octave. It just sounds a little bit fuller like this. So now when I press play, and you could hear the sound selection, it had a really long tail to fill this spot up. And there's also like a lot of texture in this sound. So you wanna pick sounds that have a lot of texture in them, but also have that tail and still sound kind of dark, almost underwater-ish. So we have that tremolator, and then I also just put an EQ on here, just to really solo out that low, mid, and mid, which is what I really liked from this sound. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna layer it with another pad too. This is the Book of Memories. It's actually part of the keys selection in Analog Lab. So I'm gonna take the original pattern and I'm gonna put it on that one. And that just adds a little bit of attack to the chords. Kind of like a Rhodes sound almost, but not quite. It's a little bit darker. I like it. It's smooth and it matches the vibe that I was going for in this track. So that's the chord progression. Those are the 2 elements that are in the beat. These types of beats are actually really, really simple. There's not too much going on. Like I said, it's really mainly just sound selection and arrangement. So I like the way that sounds. Next is the percussion. So I'm gonna use a kick here. This kick is like a deep kick. Doesn't have much of that high end kind of click that you hear on kicks. I also rolled off the top end here, so I get a nice thumpy, boomy kick. And I'm just gonna fill each 4-step. All right, so we have a 4 on the floor kick, really simple, and then we're just gonna go in here and we're gonna add this is honestly like a reggaeton bounce, but it works, so. And in order to not get too repetitive, I'm going to make the second one a different sound. So that's why it kind of sounds a little empty right now. Cool, so we got a bounce going. Next, I wanna add a shaker loop. I like the way the shakers sound a little bit better than hi-hats, but that doesn't mean we can't use a hi-hat. I'm actually gonna add a hi-hat in this beat later, but I just wanna start with a shaker loop. So I'm gonna drag this one in. It sounds like this. Next, I think I'll add the bass. Got a bass here. This is like a really retro style of bass. It's called Gall bass in Analog Lab. I really like using this one for these kinds of beats because it has nice attack, good release. I like the tone of it. I think this fits this style of beat really well. So with this bass, you want to add a lot of bounce to it. So a lot of notes on the offbeat, on the upbeat will sound really good. It's going to add a lot of bounce and it'll play with that kick really, really well. So we'll hit record and notes and automation. And then with the bass done, I actually added my own vocal. I'm gonna bring in the audio clip here. Now the way that I did this, I have a vocal chain right here. So first I just started with just the auto tune. So it was just waves tune. I set it to the scale and I just started playing with the notes. I started humming a bunch of different things to see which one I liked the best, which pattern I liked the best. And this is the one that I ended up recording. And this is what it sounds like without any of the effects. So I'll take you through plugin by plugin. Definitely not the cleanest vocal, and if that didn't have autotune on it, it would sound atrocious. But it's okay. I wanted all those imperfections because it adds texture to the beat. So after the autotune, I added some EQ, just rolled off the lows and rolled off the highs. Nothing crazy. But then I added a little alter boy, and with this, I just took the formant down by 8. I left the pitch the same. And now we're starting to get into a vibe. And I did another EQ, just rolling off some more high end, taking down some of the mids. I added a hyper chorus. Then I added a magic switch. This is kind of like I'm doubling up on chorus effects here, but I don't care. I like the way it sounded. After the hyper chorus and the magic switch, I added another EQ, just kind of taming the frequencies I didn't like. And then I added a Valhalla verb, really long decay here. I brought the pre-delay all the way down, and then I just brought the mix knob just back a little bit. And then finally I added another EQ, clean up the low end, roll off the top end. And this EQ really just tucks it in the back of the mix, which is where I wanted it to sit. So in context, it sounds like this. So really subtle, but I think it adds quite a lot to the beat. It really just gives it another layer for the ear to catch on to. And it's subtle, and I really like that. A lot of my choices in this beat were really subtle. I didn't want anything that was like sticking out too crazy, even with the drum percussion. Like You'll notice it's all kind of mixed a little bit lower. Nothing's like really smacking in your face the way it might with like a trap beat. Keep that in mind when you're making these kinds of beats. Finally, I want to add a hi-hat pattern. So this hi-hat pattern is going to be relatively simple. So we're going to fill each 4-step first, and then I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to hold Alt and scroll down to get that alternating bounce. And then I'm just gonna add some accent hats. So let me do that real quick. So with the accent hats, this is what it sounds like. And those hats just add a little bit of extra movement. I don't want those hats to play the whole time, but I know that I'm probably going to use that on like parts that I want the energy to pick up just a little bit. Again, a lot of my decisions in this beat were really subtle. I don't want anything to stick out too crazy, but I do need things to progress the beat. I'm going to switch over to the other arrangement now and take you through how I arranged it. First, we start off with the 2 Analog Lab presets, main like bounce percussion, and the shaker loop. So for an intro, I like how that sounds. Then on kind of like, I guess the hook, I added a crash, again, really subtle. So I had the crash, I added the vocal back in, and the bass and the kick. And then for this Analog Lab, I actually copied, so instead of having the keys be just one set, I did the same thing I did in the other pattern, and I just copied it across the octaves. So we just have 2 octaves here. Just adds a little bit of weight to it. Then for the second half of the hook, as it progresses, all I did was add in these hi-hats, and I added the crash again. Very simple, honestly. These beats are not that difficult to make. It's just really mainly about the sound selection. Then for the verse, I wanted it to break down into a section that didn't have much going on. So I cut everything except for the 2 Analog Lab presets and the bass and the vocals and the shakers. I cut all this percussion, but then I brought it in on the second half of this 8-bar loop. It's just a moment in the track, helps it progress and keeps the listener engaged. Then for the second half of the verse, I took the same bass pattern and I just made long notes instead of those staccato notes. And this Analog Lab, I pitched both of these down an octave, so we get a much darker tone. Added in the shakers to keep it moving. Cut everything for the last bar. And then brought the hook back in. And then I basically just copied that until the end of the song. That's basically the arrangement. Once I had that done, I knew I wanted to add a vocal. And who better to add than Drake? So I took the song Blem. I'm not going to play the original because I don't want this video to be flagged or whatever. So what I did, this is the original that I downloaded off of YouTube. I did a YouTube to MP3 conversion. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Brought it into FL Studio. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click Edit in Audio Editor. Now that I have the full song in the audio editor, I'm going to go to the wrench icon and I'm going to click Vocal Denoise / Isolator. This is going to analyze the sample and it's actually going to spit out the vocals completely solo. FL Studio just added this feature in their latest update and it is so good. It's actually so good. I was worried that it wasn't going to do that well, but it honestly did it perfectly. Between the vocal extractor, this new feature, and the stem extractor, you can do so much in FL Studio. It's amazing. They're killing it with these updates. So I brought the vocals in. I switched the mode to Stretch Pro, so it gave me the formant option. I pitched this vocal up 400 cents to match the key of the beat, but then that sounded a little bit too chipmunky for me. So I took this formant and I put it down 200 cents. And so we get a sound like this.
Unruly, unruly, my dads. Who keeps bringing more? I've had too many.
Then it took me some time to position it where I wanted to. There were a lot of different options I could have went with, but this is ultimately where I decided to put it. You guys will just have to play around with whatever vocal you have. Just move it off the grid and see if you can find some really cool flows, because this is not the same flow that's on the original blem. It's got a little bit different of a bounce, but I really like the way it sounds. So I shifted it off the grid a little bit just to find this pocket. And so all together, this is what we're left with.
Unruly, unruly, my dads. Who keeps bringing more? I've had too many. This Virginia done me up already. I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel. I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel. Don't switch on me, I got big plans. We need to forward to the islands and get you gold, no spray tans. I need you to stop running back to your ex, he's a waste man. I wanna know how come we can never slash and stay friends.
Those hats really add the
I'm
bounce.
blend for real, I might just say how I feel. I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel. Cause I know what I like, I know
A lot of
how I wanna
space.
live my life. I don't need no advice. You're not here, we both know why. So move for me when you're extra. Move for me with the pasta. I'm building the walls where they raise me. You move with me, I go crazy. Don't switch on me, I got big plans.
Nice little
We need to
breakdown.
fall to the islands and get you golden, no spray tan. I need you to stop running back to your ex, he's a waste man. I wanna know how come we can never slash and stay friends. I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel. I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel. I know we can't keep it together forever, cause you're crazy sometimes, and I only see you sometimes. Move for me when you're extra, move for me with the pasta. I'm building the walls where they raise me. You move with me, I go look, just don't switch on me, I got big plans. We need to forward to the islands and get you gold, no spray tans. I need you to stop running back to your ex, he's a waste man. I wanna know how come we can never slash and stay friends. I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel. I'm blend for real, I might just say how I feel.
And then we're into the outro. And just like that, we've made a little dancehall remix for Blem. When you're making these yourself, just remember sound selection is so key here. You don't have to get too crazy with the percussion or the arrangement or even the melodies. Just pick really solid sounds and you'll end up with something that is pretty good. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. In the description, you'll find a bunch of links to my services, sound packs, beat store, and my social media. Feel free to tap in with me on any of them. Really want to build a community here, so feel free to DM me over on Instagram and let's just chop it up. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next week.